Yeah. Eat more chicken.
I'd like to call to order the City of Columbiana council meeting for October 2nd, 2012. Please stand for the invocation for the flag.
Lord, we acknowledge your presence among us tonight. We know you are always with us. We pray for your guidance during this meeting. Give us the wisdom to work in the best interest of everyone in our community. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here.
Bishop? Keith?
Here.
Schoniker?
Here.
Allen? Here. Blake?
Here.
Spackle?
Here.
Chamberlain?
Here.
Blaisdell?
Everyone should have a copy of the September 18th, 2012 meeting minutes. And there was a change on the other minutes from the previous month.
That was done in the last meeting.
Okay.
I have a comment about that. Where is that change going to show up?
The change will be in the minutes that are in the official record.
But you didn't give us copies of the change.
No, I did not. I can read it to you if you'd like me to.
That would be nice.
The section about building inspections was corrected to read, Davis read, the motion passed unanimously at the April 2012 meeting. The word unanimously was added to that sentence. And then at the end of that paragraph was added the words, council members were asked to reach a consensus on the issue at the next meeting. And it was noted that Bob Belding will take the building inspection certification exam on December 8th, 2012. So that change will be made to the official record.
Thank you.
Are there any errors or omissions on the September 18th meeting minutes? If not, the stands presented. First item on the agenda, we have a public hearing. And it's concerning the amending sections 1260.05 and 1260.22 of the Planning and Zoning Code of the Codified Ordinances. And what it states is, notwithstanding any other provisions set forth in Part 12 of the Zoning Code of Ordinances of the City of Columbiana, Ohio, no liquid waste injection disposal wells and support structures are permitted or conditionally permitted uses within the City of Columbiana. In sections 1260.05 and 1260.2 of said Code of Ordinance shall be and hereby are accordingly amended. So, with this being a public hearing, is there anyone who would like to speak concerning this change?
I'd like to highlight a change that was made in the last whereas paragraph. Since I haven't had a chance to proofread this before it went to you on Friday, there's some language in there which didn't appear in the one that you got, which describes the reason for this and outlines the hazardous, noxious, and offensive consequences of these wells as a reason for taking this action. So I thought it was important to put that in the legislation. So if it wasn't there when you got it on Friday, it's there.
Anyone wishing to speak? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. No communications. Under reports of commission and board, Columbiana Park Recreation and Cemetery Board meeting minutes of August 27, 2012. Any comments on this report?
I have no comments on the report. Driving through the park, I think the fence, the football field is looking really nice. I love it.
I have one thing that brought to my attention, that fence. I don't know if you looked at it, but couple of the pieces have already been bent. And I was talking to a couple people at the park board, and they said that the lawnmowers, instead of weed whacking out close to it, are coming right up into it, and they've hit it and damaged it and bent it. And they said that we're aware of it, and that the fence company's gonna fix it, but we need to do something with the park police so they realize that they can't get the mower so close to the fence that they damage it. Well, after we get it.
Sure.
Already been addressed.
Okay. Very good. Anything else for, in the minutes of the, Park Recreation Cemetery Board meeting? All right, we're going to go right into recognition of persons desiring to appear. On the agenda, we have Kelly Harding, Heroes and Halos, concerning a 5K race walk in September of 2013 through the city of Columbiana. Please come forward.
We are asking permission to have a 5K walk-run race September 21st. And the benefits from that race will be to help with the funding for the Heroes and Halos Special Needs Safety Day that we had this summer. With that event, we had over 500 people there throughout the day. It was a success. We have had people ask us, to continue. Another thing that we're doing with the safety day is we're also putting together trainings. We're working on putting together training for autism and working together to put another training for trachea and how to handle that. So monies will be going for those projects. But we're looking at having fundraisers, and this will be one of our fundraisers. I've already talked to Columbiana schools. They are willing to allow us to use the school. We will start at the middle school in the parking lot. We will go down all the way down. We're going to go down through Harmony Village and allow the residents to get, participate in that just by, it'll be a water checkpoint so they can see the racers and go all the way down to the Rockton Road and then back. And so the last lap will be around the track will be our ending lap, and that's where the race will finish. We have been offered by Rob Witcher to do fireworks after the race is done. He will donate his services for us. We just have to purchase the fireworks. I've been in contact with Special Olympics and Paralympics, and we're trying to coordinate the date that we can have individuals with special needs to come and participate in the race. We did get permission to do wheelchairs on the track, so we're able to include everybody. So part of Heroes and Halos is getting public safety workers and individuals with special needs and their families together, and so that will just help us incorporate that.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Just one. Are you insured?
Yes, everything we do is insured by Heroes and Halos.
Do you know what the values are?
The values for the event that we had, we purchased for $140. So I have not looked at the insurance for this, but I do have money set back for the insurance.
Yeah, I was wondering more about what the coverage was.
The coverage was for $1 million for a one-day event.
Okay.
So I figured that would cover it for our next event as well.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Any other comments? Keith?
Ferguson,
Yes.
Bishop,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Schillinger,
Yes.
Challenger,
Yes.
Lakeman,
Yes.
Thank you.
Good luck. Anyone else desire to speak to council this evening?
Your Honor, I have one comment.
Sure, Chief.
Just a reminder on the City Safety Day scheduled for this Saturday. In conjunction with that event, we'll be having a prescription drug take-back. Anyone that has expired, old, or excess prescription medications that are in their home that they'd like to dispose of properly, we bring them in. There'll be a police officer there to receive those. We package those, and the DEA disposes of them for us. Diversion of prescription medications is a big problem among young people. Sometimes they get it right from the medicine chest at home as opposed to a drug dealer. So this helps you get rid of anything that you have that you don't know what to do with. You'd rather not have it flushed down the commode into the the city sanitary system. We'd rather have you turn it in. We'll be there to take those off you, no questions asked. Just come over and drop it off, and we'll take and wash your hands.
What day is that, Chief?
Saturday, in conjunction with city safety day. Police, fire, and EMS will all be there. It's a really nice event, and invite everybody to come out for all the demonstrations.
Yeah, it's an excellent event. A lot of things go on. There's food and stuff. There's plenty of things for the kids to do. And hopefully the weather will be nice. Looks like it may be, and that brings a lot of people out. So, anyone else? Manager's report.
Okay, first I have discussion income tax confidentiality, section 8809, the income tax code. At the last meeting, we talked about appointing 3 members to the board of review. And I've since been asked by 2 councilmen what the issue was, and I told them it was confidential. As administrator, I couldn't give out that information. So I'm just bringing that here for discussion. Dan, give me that.
Yeah, I'd like to offer a summary of my position so we all know what I do. The tax law in the city of Columbiana was enacted in 1973. And for all practical purposes, it remains substantially the same today as it was in 1973. We have, to my knowledge, and I believe Keith will support me on this, we have never had the need for the appointment of this board. And because, for one reason or another, no one who has filed a return and provided all the necessary documentation has seen fit to take issue with any of the tax code and how it applies to the particular taxpayer. Well, lo and behold, as Mike will indicate, that an issue has arisen with the taxpayer. And when that came up, Mike brought to my attention because I would have to represent the city before the Board of Review. And in reviewing the process, it became clear that we would have to appoint the Board of Review, first of all, and it would have to be done in such a way that the board could meet and decide the issue within 45 days of the date that this request for decision was made, and that was the 15th of, what was it, the 15th of
17th.
17th
of September, I received it.
So we calculated out the time, and we realized we needed to get this moving right away because if we don't meet the deadline and have the hearing, well, then the issue would by default go against us, and the taxpayer would by default in effect prevail. So that's why the matter was brought to the attention of council. When it was, a question was raised by Councilman Bishop as to who and what was involved here. And I said at that time that this was a matter of confidentiality and could not be discussed with anybody who did not have a need to know, which in my opinion is the administrator and the administration, and unfortunately me, because I have to process the matter as legal counsel. So I reviewed the confidentiality requirement, and I provided each and every one of you with copies of the relevant sections of the code, namely 880.13 and 880.09, in which the confidentiality requirement is set forth. Now, I consider this, it's my opinion as your legal counsel, that this is a right that belongs to the taxpayer. It's not something that I hold or anyone else holds. The taxpayer has a right to have his or her tax information held in the greatest confidence. Mary Louise Dickon, who was our tax administrator for years and years and years, attended many seminars and came back and emphasized repeatedly that this is a very important aspect of our tax law. We must keep our taxpayers' information in the strictest confidence. I view it as akin to, or analogous to, if you will, the attorney-client privilege or the patient, doctor-patient privilege. You go to a lawyer, you go to your doctor, what you tell them is held in confidence. They don't have the right to tell that to anybody else unless you as the client or the patient expressly waive that right. Can't even tell a spouse or a child or a parent what was discussed. So in my opinion, this is a very serious issue of confidentiality, which must be held until the appropriate time that it may be disclosed. And I mention that because if you look at 880.13, you'll see that the taxpayer has the right to ask for this hearing before the Board of Review. And he has the right, he or she has the right to have this information held in confidence, not only by the administration of the city, but by the Board of Review itself. It says that the matter can be held in private. So no one else other than the Board of Review and the officials and the taxpayer are involved in the determination of the issue. Now, if the issue at that point in time, and by the way, the taxpayer at any time could say, I don't care if this information is made public, and if they did that in writing, that's fine. It relieves everybody of the concern of the confidentiality. Back to the point though, if at the hearing a decision is made by the Board of Review in favor of the city, and the taxpayer at that point in time decides that he or she has had a full opportunity to express their views and that they feel that the Board of Review's decision is fair and that's all there is to it, that's as far as it goes. It still remains confidential. But if the taxpayer elects at that point in time to take the matter further, i.e. by appeal to the Court of Common Pleas, which he or she can do under the statute, then it would become public, because the restrictions under our code apply to us and the Board of Review. So that was the reason for my response to Mr. Bichel and the position that I take today. I don't believe that it's appropriate for anybody other than officials who have a need to know to have this information, not because it's mine, but because it belongs to the taxpayer. So the next question that came up was, do we need to know this in order to make an appointment? And I would make the observation to you that the issue involves city income tax. So it would be appropriate to appoint somebody, or a group of people, 3 people, with some experience with regard to taxes, i.e. tax preparers, other people who've been involved in city government, lawyers who do tax work. Anyone who has that background would be an appropriate person to place on the board. You certainly don't need to know anything about the issue in order to make that decision. And I would analogize it, if you will, to the appointment of by a board such as, or a council such as to a board of architectural review. And many cities have those boards. If you have to make an appointment to a board of architectural review, I trust that most people on councils are neither engineers nor architects nor contractors. There may be some. But for the most part, the people who are making the appointment don't know anything about the issues that are going to be decided by the board that they're appointing. And that's perfectly normal. And you can make an intelligent, rational choice of someone to sit on the board without having any idea with regard to the issues that may come before that board. So, in my view, 2 points. I don't believe that the information can be disclosed for the reasons that I've given. Secondly, I don't think the information needs to be disclosed for you folks to do what you need to do.
The 3 folks that you have on this tax board of review, are they different than they were originally? One is, correct.
Originally, I think Mark Hudson was on the suggestion because of his legal background.
And why did we make the switch? Because I think that was the issue, wasn't it? That wasn't the issue? Why did we make the switch?
I had a conversation with Attorney Hudson. He said he'd like to have his name removed. And we added Richard Simpson, who used to be a former mayor, but is also in his own business and understands tax issues and so forth.
Is it a rule that there can only be 3 on there?
Yeah, the charter, the code provides that the board of review shall consist of a chairperson and 2 individuals, all appointed by council. So you've got you've got a board of 3, and 2 constitute a quorum for the hearing and decision-making process. Also, we're going to have to have the proceeding recorded, because if the taxpayer or the city should decide to appeal the decision of the Board of Review, the Common Pleas Court has to see the transcript. They have to know what happened at the hearing. And of course, anybody who testifies in the hearing has to be put on the record. It's an administrative proceeding, but it's conducted as any tribunal would be conducted.
And the chairperson would be decided by those 3 when they first got together?
As I read it, the council selects the chairperson.
Okay.
So you would be selecting one individual as chairperson and 2 others to serve as companion board members.
Okay. Anyone want to make any comments?
I'll save mine for later.
Okay. Any other discussion on this at this time?
Why wouldn't we have somebody from council on the committee? If somebody from council was,
I didn't know that had
It's
been
on the agenda.
suggested.
is it on the agenda? Okay, all right, we'll wait till later.
We'll get there.
All right.
Are you suggesting that you think somebody from council should be on the?
I'll save that for later. Well, if there's a discussion, I'll save it for later.
Well, I can tell you right now, since we're on the subject, if you appoint members of council to the board, you're creating a situation in which a taxpayer walks into this hearing and he knows that he or she is there by reason of the law that was passed by this council. Not this council, but the one back in '73. But nevertheless, it's the law of the city of Columbiana. It's now being judged or heard by officials of the city of Columbiana who are not impartial. It's being presented by the city's lawyer, who is certainly not impartial, and it's being, the issue is being brought before them by the tax administrator who works for the city of Columbiana, who is certainly not impartial. Everybody there has taken an oath to uphold the law of the city of Columbiana, which is at issue in these tax cases. The taxpayer is coming before the board and saying, I don't think this applies to me the way you think it applies. So if you're the taxpayer, would you like to walk into a tribunal like that? I don't think so. And I don't think, although the statute is silent on who can be appointed, I'm suggesting to you that that would be inappropriate for the reasons that I've given. It's all of a sudden the city becomes the jury, the judge, and the determiner of the fact.
Yeah, but at the same time, we're the ones appointing. We're the ones appointing the 3 people.
Yes, and
so
that's the.
There could be a conflict there as well.
No.
Well, the other thing is, those 3 people, Dan, are also residents and taxpayers of Columbiana.
But they're
Why does that make
they're
a
not
difference?
representative of the city in terms of councilmen.
So they don't represent the city.
We'll save it for later. We'll just save it for later.
You can do that. You raised the question. I want you to know why. At this point in time, I feel I can't. You'll do what you decide to do. You do this as council. I'm just telling you my view on it, and I don't think it would be appropriate for the reasons I give it. You can judge the merit of those reasons for yourself.
Okay. We'll save that discussion for later on. We'll continue.
Okay, you got a copy of the EMS report for September. Also gave you a copy of the fire department reports for August and September. And Mike, did they get a copy of this tax capitalization? Because I didn't. I saw Rebecca had it on my agenda.
Was this one?
Yeah. Did she pass that out?
I think she passed that on.
Yes. Okay. We got a copy of that income tax report. And it also gave you a copy of the bill list and the questions, concerns.
One other question on your letter to council. The maintenance building and replacement maintenance building in the Firestone Park.
And we had, the engineer, architect had drawings submitted his hearing, which they do by computer and by phone on Wednesday, the past Wednesday. And he had a few things they want to change, and he's in the process of doing that. As soon as that's done, they're going to bid.
I'm still concerned about the location of that. Is that to the left of the pavilion that's out there on the
It is
east
left.
side? It is, as you face the pavilion, it's on the left.
Yes.
Anything else for the city manager? Any questions on the bill list? All right, go right into old business. Need a motion to remove from table the resolution number 12-R-436.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments? Dan?
Yeah,
Okay.
I keep noticing on the plat map and in some of the verbiage around it. I can't put my hand on who the players are or who's going to be annexed because it keeps talking about the Port Authority, and I know that's a railroad track. It keeps talking about the water plant, and I know that's our water plant. It talks about the Hawkins farm, and I can see that on this plat. But there are, let me finish my question if you would. There are 2 or 3 other people listed on the petition that aren't showing up on the map. Can you help me?
First of all, is this first motion to remove from the table?
We should vote on the motion to remove from
Remove
the
the
table
table
before
before
we
discuss.
start discussion.
Correct.
And then we'll discuss. Understand?
By that time, you'll have forgotten what the question
No, I
was.
know.
Deanna, if you take a vote on to remove it from the table.
King?
Yes.
Schlenker?
Yes.
Callender? Yes. Wickman?
Yes.
Ferguson?
Yes.
Bishop?
Yes.
Due to the length of the resolutions and ordinances, may I have a motion to read it by title only?
Second.
Deanna?
Callender? Yes. Wickman?
Yes.
Ferguson?
Yes.
Bishop?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Schlenker?
Yes.
Resolution number 12-R-436, second reading. A resolution authorizing the filing of a petition for annexation of 134.215 acres tract of land situated in the northeast and northwest quarters of Section 15, Township of Fairfield, County of Columbiana, State of Ohio.
So moved.
Second.
Comments?
Okay.
Do you remember his question?
I think so. Okay, so if you have the list there, do you have the list, Bob?
Well, somewhere it's on that
Okay,
petition.
we had the city of Columbiana.
That's right on the front of it.
I don't think it is.
You're talking about this list, Keith?
No, no, there's a list.
Within the ordinance. It was in the last meeting. Packet, so maybe you don't have it tonight. I can tell you who all's on it. And then
Good, would you do that?
yeah, okay, so you have the city of Columbiana, of course. You have, the Port Authority, who runs the railroad.
Understood.
You have, the Hawkins, property, which is owned by, Paul, Nevin, and Martha Blazek, which is, sister. And you also have on the petition, the Edgertons,
Yeah.
that we purchased property off of. And I'm gonna refer this to Dan, because Dan said we should have them on there. because-
The annexation law requires that we include all freeholders. The Edgertons are life estate holders on the property. They're by law deemed to be freeholders. So they need to be included in the petition. They have an interest in the property.
Say that slowly to me.
The law requires all freeholders to be included in an annexation petition of this kind.
What is a freeholder?
The person who has an interest in the property, i.e. the city of Columbiana owns the water plant property. The Hawkins people own the Hawkins farm.
I know we bought that property, I just wondered.
That makes you a freeholder under the law. That's the term that the annexation law uses to refer to necessary parties. And the Edgertons are necessary because they hold a life estate in the property we purchased from them. They have the right to live in that house.
That's correct.
Yeah, so that's why they're
Okay.
part of the petition.
That's making sense. Thank you.
Has the petition been signed yet?
No,
Is there any reason we're waiting on that?
well, because I don't have authority to start this process till I get authority from you.
Is this, cause any problems for fire, police? We're extending our boundaries.
Well, hopefully it fixes it, because right now, we don't have any police protection at the water plant property. They can't go out of the township.
I heard you say that, but that was hard for me to swallow too. It's our property and it's our police department. I don't know how we can
I
stop
would
it.
refer that to the
Yes.
chief.
If the property is city property, we can go onto the property and enforce any city regulations, but if it's in the township, then there's a jurisdictional question that arises. You might have to go with the sheriff's office that has jurisdiction out there for any investigations. It's cleaner if it's annexed in and it's actually part of the city proper.
Don't we have a shooting range back there too? Don't we have a shooting?
No, we don't have a shooting range. There's some property that we own that was talked about being a shooting range, but we don't have a shooting range.
Will that property get annexed in?
Not this, I don't think the property I'm talking about is the same one that we're talking about here.
It's not, you're saying?
I don't think it is. No, I think the property I'm talking about is more out, off of Route 14.
Okay, my question was about the economic impact on your police department and our fire department. Is that going to give Fairfield Township, give rise to them coming in and saying we want to lower the cost of our fire department? Is that going to cause their guys more miles and more overtime?
I think it's fair to say anything you add to the city boundaries is going to increase the mileage that needs to be patrolled. I think anything that contains population obviously increases the potential for calls for service. So the short answer is yes. I mean, what the impact would be in terms of an undeveloped parcel that's going to be used for water plant purposes and not say high density condos, that would be somewhat less than, than that type
Well,
of.
that fits my question though. This is a pretty large chunk of property, the Hawkins area, which could in a year become another Cimarron, I guess. That would really lend to the impact. Now, what are the pluses? There must be some pluses.
My conversation with actually Paul Hawkins last Friday, they have no plans that, this is property they grew up on. And the Cimarron was part of the Hawkins farm, okay? It's kind of a thing that they want to hold on to. So they don't have any plans at all. And they don't live around here. One lives in Akron, one I think in Poland, the other one in Texas. But it's something it was property they grew up on, they want to keep it as long as they can.
Okay, so it's for sure, now it's for sure then that if that happens, we're getting no revenue from that property, right?
As far as income tax, no, probably not. We're going to get a little bit of real estate tax, doesn't amount a lot because it's agriculture.
And the county takes most of it, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to collect levies, you're going to collect EMS levies, you're going to collect car levies, which at this point, the township's collecting the car levy out there, but switch to us on their property.
Okay.
Ours is taxed.
Are there any other pluses? Who's going to pay to move the utilities out to the Hawkins farm?
Well, we already have utilities at the site. Yeah, they run down the road.
We have them at the water plant.
Most of them, no, if you're talking about utilities like,
Talking about all utilities.
if you're talking about sewer, if somebody wanted to come in there and develop it, they're like a developer like on the other property, they're required to pay for that.
I'm not trying to belabor a point.
Yeah.
I'm not.
You know, and to be honest with you, I didn't start out including Hawkins on this, you know. But when you look at the map, it squares up the property, it makes it easier to maintain the road and so forth. But, you know, if I wasn't included, it'd just be, you know, it's a big slice there, and then all of a sudden it's our property. So, you know.
That's interesting that you said that about the roadway, that then we're responsible for
Yes.
that piece of Metz Road. Do you have any idea how many feet or miles or?
Keith, are you talking about the Hawkins property, are you talking about the field across from the baseball fields?
Yes.
Just that one big field there? Okay. I just wanted to comment to Bob that the police already patrol that area because they have a routine patrols that go into the baseball field and go back in behind all the back fields. And so that's right across from the fields.
Good, I apologize for asking you, thanks.
Yeah, the total, Bob, is almost 2,900 feet.
Half a mile. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Ian?
Bishop,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Schleifer,
Yes.
Callender,
Yes.
Lakeman,
Yes.
Ferguson,
Yes.
New business, first item, Mr. Blakely wants to make a motion.
Yeah, do you want to make a motion before I discuss this, or? I think I should probably put some background information on it first.
Let's make the motion and then we can do
Okay.
discussion.
I'd like to make a motion that we retain special legal counsel for the express purpose of representing this council to obtain a writ of mandamus in the Columbiana County Common Pleas Court.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, discussion.
Some background on this. This started immediately following the previous meeting in which Bob asked what the issue was at hand from a tax standpoint, that we couldn't, we needed to appoint this board, and we were told that night that it was confidential. And I understood that. I thought in this setting, with the press here and the public, that it's probably not a wise idea to be talking about tax information. So the next day we were talking, Bob and I were talking, and I said, why don't you go down to Keith's office and just ask him what the issue is at hand privately. Go in and shut the door. And he did so and was still told in private that council members have zero reason to be involved in this, and it's not our right to know. And he left, called me. I called Keith and was given the same answer pretty much. He said, I had a problem, talk to Dan. I called Dan, was given this 880.09, I had already read it. And I'd like to start there, because at the base of this, 880.09 states any information gained as a result of any return, investigation, verification, or hearing before the administrator required by this chapter shall be confidential, and no disclosure thereof shall be made. There's not a period right there. And this is in all of your packets. It says except for official purposes. It's already, this is in the context of the administrator's powers. The except for official purposes. So the confidentiality thing right there to us goes away. We are public officials, and we are asking a question regarding official public business. and the city manager and the city attorney are refusing to tell us. So that day, we had this discussion. Dan said, no, I'm not going to give it to you. So I turned around and I sent an email to Keith. And I'm not going to publicly read the whole thing, but there are parts of it that's already been misrepresented tonight. It was told that we asked for people's names and everything else, and that's not the case. The email that was sent to Keith, I mean, and said how much of this I would like to read publicly. All right, I understand that the two of you have been doing this for a long time and maybe have forgotten who you work for. But the charter explains that you work for this council and that you are to act on its wishes. Who do you think you are? Do you feel that you can flagrantly disregard the charter of this city? According to section 4.06 of our charter and the powers of council, we are given this: the power to inquire into the conduct of any officer, employee, agent, or independent contractor in their exercises of powers. It's a long thing, I'm going to skip ahead. But it says the council our job is to inquire into and investigate any and all municipal affairs. It says in the exercise of this power, council has the power to subpoena witnesses, require the production of records and other evidence in the manner provided in the rules, regulations, and bylaws of this council. And in the absence of those provisions, the mayor or president council shall have the power to issue subpoenas for witnesses in the production of records. I go on to explain that. It says, Dan mentions tax code 880.09. He is correct that it clearly states that tax issues are matters of the utmost confidentiality. I also agree with him that the code should be enforced explicitly, but that same 880.09 states the following, and I discussed that there's not, it says except for official public business. I ask you again to please simply give background information on the tax issue that is requiring this panel to be formed. As a member of council, I'm being asked to appoint 3 people to a board without even knowing what the issue is. How can we possibly make an intelligent vote on the correct people to appoint if we don't know what the problem is? I then gave a deadline for him to respond because I'd already been told twice that we weren't going to be given this information. I was then, in writing, responded back that he would not divulge the information. He responded with 880.09 again, saying that he couldn't, even though the charter said that he can. And so I said, can you please explain to me how official purpose covers you, but not this council? And he responded that I, consider it an administrative function and not a legislative function. The charter of this city doesn't give you the ability to make that determination. It clearly does not. That was just the first day. So after I was told in writing that they would not give us this information, even though the charter says we can, I sought separate legal advice on my own. And the attorney that I spoke to told me that the way to get this information after reading our charter and saying that explicitly with 100% certainty we would be right to it is to file what's called a writ of mandamus, which mandates from a judge to a lower public official that they are required to do the action that's asked, so long as legally what we are asking for is allowed. And it was looked at for over a week by attorneys. I've got stacks of paperwork up here to prove the case on it, knowing that they still didn't want to divulge it. So I went through and I looked not only, you put in their packets, I thought that it was quite one-sided. That in the packets for all of the council members, you put your powers in there, but you left everything out on the powers of this council, the power of the mayor, the power of the city attorney. But I went through the charter and printed out the powers and duties of you. And one of them jumped out at me on top of everything else. Number 7 in section 7.04 of your powers and duties as a manager is that you shall make such reports as this council may require concerning the operations of all municipal departments, offices, boards, commissions, and agencies subject to that are under your direction and supervision. That is in this charter, that you have to provide those reports. It doesn't say except tax issues, except confidential things that your attorney says you don't have to. It says all. The powers of council say that we have the authority to request any and all. But still, we're told no. There's even provisions that talk about the relationship between council and manager. And it says that we physically have the right to go around you to your employees if we feel the need to, for the purpose of inquiring and investigating. I don't want to do any of this. I tried through my letter. I mean, if you read the whole thing, I politely asked you for generic information and was told no by you. So whenever I'm told no to that level, I feel like somebody's hiding something. I don't think it could be a flex of muscle to say, hey, look, I've been doing this for a very long time. You haven't. You're getting on my ankles. Get off of me. I'm going to flex and show you who's the boss. That could be it. It also, it could be much worse than that. Because you're hiding this information from us, we have no choice but to think that this board that you put the names up for, who if you read all of the information in here, Keith, that this board is designed to be the counterbalance, the check and balance to you. It's not supposed to work with you. It's one of the powers, it says that you shall not have the power or authority to appoint or remove, suspend, or discipline the director of law or any member of any board or commission established under this charter. And the reason that they remove your ability to do anything from a disciplinary action with the board is because they are your check and balance. If this charter is giving you the ability to dictate taxes, and this board is set aside to oversee and say whether you're right or wrong, it's your counterbalance. So first, to be brought up to this on a Tuesday, it wasn't even in our packets, those first three names, to say, I want you to appoint these three people that are going to be my counterbalance. And you can trust me, but oh, by the way, I'm not going to tell you what the issue is. And it's pretty much a life appointment. It doesn't say that there's a term involved at all. It's until this council deems for it to go away. So you have to start looking at it as all of us. This is not a partisan thing. I know we bicker up here a lot, as I believe we should. I think that we have very differing opinions on many things. But I think on this one, we should stand together as this council. If we set the precedence that our city manager or our city attorney, who are both hired by us and work at the leisure of this council, can tell us, no, I'm not going to tell you something. It would be no different than going to work and your boss saying, I need you to tell me X, Y, or Z, and you say, no, I don't want to. And then your boss just saying, okay, no problem. They'd fire you that day. I have no interest in doing that. I just don't understand why over the years this relationship has formed, that council works for the leisure of the two of you, even though the wording says the exact opposite. We shouldn't have to sit up here and listen to you say, we don't have to give you this information, whenever it clearly states in every single thing in our charter that you do. So I made this motion to file this for one explicit reason. I would hope that instead of doing this, the two of you could publicly in this meeting, I don't care if we have to excuse ourselves and go into an executive session to talk about the issue. And I don't care about the person's name. But later on in this, we're going to be voting on purchasing a $600,000 fire truck. For all I know, we have someone who's challenging a $1 million tax. I have absolutely no clue. We're to put our trust in a board that we will never get the answer to, according to you. But I'm supposed to commit to spending $600,000 tonight. I have no trust whatsoever in the fact that what I'm being told can accurately happen when I feel like you're hiding that from me. So I can't make a vote with the public's money knowing that you guys could be hiding. So for all I know, you've made a mistake on something innocently, but don't want us to know about it. So you say, you know what, here's the 3 names I want to put up. We're going to fix this problem. It's all confidential, guys. You're never going to find out what it is. Problem solved. I'm not suggesting that's the case. I'm not suggesting it's something more malicious, but I can't for the life of me figure out why you would want to keep it from this council. We deal with money issues every day. We dealt with an $18 million issue with Firestone Farms, right? The $8 million, bare minimum. That was a tax issue that you didn't keep from us. So I look at that and say, how could you keep a tax issue that large? You think that we're involved in it, that there's something that potentially could be small is to be confidential from us. I don't for the life of me understand it. So if you can, I don't want the precedents set that you guys believe you have the authority to hide something from this council, because it is nowhere in this charter. Nowhere at all. I won't go through with this motion. Otherwise, I have no choice to protect not only this council, but 20 years from now. Because if you do this tonight and we allow this to happen, you set a precedence that any other city manager who comes along and say, you know what, council, I don't care what you say. I don't have to tell you. I can't in good conscience allow that to happen.
That's a big difference between what you're saying. This is a tax issue. This is an individual.
How do I know?
I think that was explained to you.
No, I was told to take you at face value that it's a tax issue. I don't know if it's
I
a
mean,
company.
Dan just said here, mate, it's an income tax issue.
Look, from what happened with this, I will never trust another thing you say. I can't. You're hiding information from us. So you sit here and listen to what he says after you hide it in writing, saying, I'm not going to tell you. Why would I take you at face value?
You know, to me, it's very clear in the tax code. I cannot divulge tax information.
Except to official
Unless you want.
business. What's that?
Unless you want. Is what you're saying.
No, it's an official business. I'm voting on something. I'm official. That's an official business.
Well, that's your interpretation. That's not mine.
Well, no, that's why I want to recommend Davis. We'll get a different opinion. You could be right. I spoke with other attorneys that 100% say you're wrong. They said
the other attorney's right.
They said the only place on the planet, they weren't joking, would be a dictator would not see it this way.
If we went into executive session, would you let us know what it is? I don't want a name, but would you let us know what it is?
I wouldn't. Let me explain to you. A name is obviously revealing the person involved if you give a name. But also, if you discuss a particular tax issue which is limited to a very small group of people, you very easily identify the person involved just by knowing the issue. The point is that this is a matter of confidentiality. This is not, I don't want to hide this from you. I couldn't, personally, I don't care, but I have a duty not to disclose it to you. I think that you have a duty to appoint the board without trying to compromise my duty.
If we're appointing a board and we don't know what
You
the
don't
problem
need to
is.
know. You're not making
Yeah,
their
but I do need to.
No, you don't.
But if I'm going to appoint a board,
The mayor says I can speak.
if I'm going to appoint a board for any issue, okay, for any issue, I want to know that the people on the board are qualified to adjudicate that issue. I'm not going to send the chief of police to buy a fire truck. I'm going to send the chief of the fire department to buy a fire truck. So, I want to know what the issue is that the board is going to rule on.
So you would select an accountant, a tax preparer, someone else who has experience in this particular field of endeavor, and they would make the decision. That's what the statute says. Now,
But I don't know what decision they're making. I don't know what they're deciding on.
You don't, once you appoint a board, Jim, you don't involve yourself in the decision-making process. What would you say, for example, what if the matter was disclosed to you and you said, whoa, I don't like that. I'm not going to appoint the board because I don't like the issue. That's the point. You don't have any...
Yeah, but the reverse can happen too.
You feel that that's what you're doing.
The reverse can happen too, Dan.
Well, I'm relying on myself or the manager, and relying on what the code says.
But you're leaving out the words in their code.
What I'm telling you is, I'm charged with the responsibility of making that interpretation. I have to make the call. The lawyers you talk to don't have to make the call. I do. If I disclose the information to you and I'm wrong and I've breached a confidentiality issue, I put myself at risk, I put you at risk, I put the town at risk because the taxpayer has been offended.
The three people that we don't know can listen to this information and. be
That's
fine.
their function. That's what the statute says they're supposed to do.
Is it my turn now?
Yeah, Mr. Bishop wanted to speak.
Here's an issue for you, Dan. I understand that our finance director knows about this issue. That troubles me greatly based on what you said. You're saying you can't divulge this to anybody for any reason because it's confidential, but
No, I didn't say that.
But yeah, finance director knows, I bet the income tax director knows.
The income tax department does know it. That's where the process funnels through the income tax department. If
I was told that this was a letter from a taxpayer to Keith Chamberlain addressing a tax issue.
That's true. They are asking for the board to be appointed so that they can
Well, I'm saying is, how do these other people know that? And why do they need to know?
because they are involved in the administration of the tax
And
department.
so-
You don't have the right to go in and look at my tax return. You don't have the right to go into the tax
I know.
department and look at
I know
anybody's tax
exactly.
return.
I know.
So we're just, look, it would be a lot easier for me to disclose the information. I'm telling you, in my opinion, it would be the wrong thing to do. And let me tell you a little bit about this mandamus business that he's talking about. Mandamus is a process whereby the taxpayer, or in this case the council, if you vote to do this, would hire a lawyer to go to court and ask the judge to require Keith and I or Mike to disclose the information to you. That's fine. If you want to do that, you can. Here are the issues. In order to prevail in a mandamus case, the first and most important element of the case is a clear legal right to access to the material. Now, he claims that he's right. I don't believe he is. So there's a dispute there's a difference of opinion here. All I'm saying to you is, in my opinion, it's not, you don't have the right at all. He's saying you do. I don't, he's entitled to his opinion.
Not only his opinion, it's mine too.
And you're entitled to yours. The judge may not share that opinion, and if he does, he's going to say, Blaisdell, you don't have to disclose the information.
Right, and then we'll live happily ever after.
Now, wait a minute. Now, if he says, Blaisdell, you do have to disclose the information, I'm off the hook, because the statute clearly says if a court orders me to do it, fine.
Yeah. How is it that you got on the hook?
The statute put me on the hook. The statute said I have to maintain this information confidential.
So how is this a bad thing? Yeah.
What's bad?
I don't think it is, that's what I'm asking.
I
What's
don't
the
know what
bad?
you're talking about.
The mandamus.
Oh, but
What's the bad
well,
thing? If it gets you off the hook, and it gets us what we're looking for,
Well,
what's
first
the
of all,
bad thing?
you're going to have to hire a lawyer to do it if you choose. Council makes a decision. You don't make it. This council makes it.
That's why I made the motion.
Okay,
Well aware.
so if you make the decision to do it, you go ahead, you hire the lawyer, but the problem is, it's going to take some time, and we don't have the time. So I would at least, if you're going to do this, ask you to appoint the board and let the board function. So, and then you can go ahead with your mandamus and try to get the information that way. That's fine. I don't have any problem with
I
that.
put the motion up for both things.
I don't have any problem with the
I
motion.
seriously, I'm not trying to be argumentative with you, but I exhausted this. I mean, I don't think, well, you might be aware.
I think I'd like to call for the motion.
Hey, you want to make a comment
So,
first?
I have a question. So if we go through with
I'll make
this,
my comment.
and,
I'm still gonna call for the motion. You can call whichever.
and we appoint a board, this could be used, this information could be used for future considerations.
You could still go, you could appoint the board.
Still
and
sets
still-
the precedent, it breaks the precedent, so I just don't want a precedent set of you guys telling this council that we can't do something.
I'm not telling you anything.
You are.
I'm telling you that the statute says it. I'm simply interpreting the statute.
But you're interpreting it the way you want.
No, you don't agree with me, and that's fine.
Right, but that means another attorney did interpret it differently, so that does tell me you're interpreting it the way you want.
He doesn't have to make the call. I do. He's not hired by you to
I'm
make
trying to
it.
take you off the
Oh, no,
hook,
well,
man.
thank you, Brian, but I don't appreciate your opinion.
I know
I
that.
think we'll want to make a comment next.
I wrote something down here. Years ago, when our income tax was proposed, the local factory owner came out against it. It was one of the the wealthiest man in town. I knew him personally. When it was explained to him, he was for the tax, but what he was worried about was that council or someone else would have it available in his report. When he saw the code, he had no words. We now have some council persons that are seeking to have a person's tax report problem made available to them. This is wrong for 3 reasons. First, it goes against our code. Second, it goes against the ethics that we have. And third, it should go against their morals. I will keep tonight's agenda and minutes from this meeting until the next election. It should look good on a campaign sign. Both for me and I will try to look at your city income tax report. I have tried to think of a reason they want to see it. Can't come up with it.
I didn't ask for anyone's income tax
No
return or
one
name.
asked me for that.
You gave earlier talk, and I gave mine.
But yours is just a
Things
lie.
aren't true.
Oh, mine's a lie.
Yeah, did I ask for a name? No.
I didn't put a name, I said,
You did. You just said that I would be looking for people's tax returns. That's a
Yeah.
lie.
no, there's no name.
Whatever.
Who pays for this legal counsel?
We city would. It would probably take a couple of hours of time. And with the stuff that we go in executive sessions and approve at the $1,000 on, we're way under that.
I don't accept these estimates, Mary, because he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Tom, call for the question. Any last quick comments? I think we've covered it pretty extensively.
I think we started to repeat this.
Okay. Ian?
Well, what are we voting on here?
File for
This one.
File for rid of it, okay.
Yeah, number
The
12.
motion is to accept or reject Brian's motion, right? Or the vote is to accept.
The motion is being voted on as 12A on the agenda. To retain special legal counsel to obtain writ of mandamus. That's the motion we're voting on.
Okay.
Schoniger?
No.
Callender?
No.
Blakeman?
Yes.
Ferguson?
First, I'd like to say I don't agree with Brian's character assessments of the 2 gentlemen on the end. Now,
Bishop?
first, I'd like to say that this needs to be done because this council needs to have its authority to function, and I vote yes.
King?
Yes.
3-3, Mr. Mayor.
Well, I think for the future, I vote yes. Okay. Item B.
Anybody in mind?
Pardon?
Anybody have anybody in mind?
As far as attorney?
The attorney I met with told me that he'd either do it himself or work with another city attorney that has no bias in the case. I can get with you tomorrow.
Okay. We need to do it
I'll do it tomorrow.
quickly. Okay.
What, we got 5 more days to have this committee done?
We have a deadline, what did I tell you, Mike?
It's 45 days that we have to set the hearing date.
We have it, from the date, we have 45 days.
Right. From the
The
day I
board has to
receive
get,
the
has to
letter.
function and be done with it.
Yeah, right, you have to have the hearing set, right, within the 45 days.
No, from what date though?
Well, September 17th.
Thank you. Okay.
How many days will you give us?
Well, if you count the 17th as the first day, it would be October 31st. If you count the 18th as day 1, it would be November 1st. So I would say
Like the whole month of
October.
October, almost the whole month of October.
What was the date of the letter, Mike?
September 17th.
I thought I read somewhere where it was the 14th.
No, it was a Monday morning. I believe it's the 17th.
Okay. And item B, would you like to make another motion?
Yeah, we were asked at the same meeting 2 weeks ago to come up with our own name for this board. And just doing over this over the last 2 weeks, knowing everything now that was going on, I suggested that I make a motion that we create this tax board using the following. One seat to be filled by Lowell, Tom, or Mary, one by James, Bob, or myself, and one by the mayor. And my explanation word as follows. We will still have our legal representation there that evidently helped Keith make this decision in the first place. And we obviously have very strongly different opinions, but we all represent the same public. And 50% of this city put us up here. They can't possibly agree with everything that we both think. So I say if we split half of us in half with this votes the way they always go, and then we take the executive leader of our city, who is the mayor, to oversee and break that tie, if there would be one.
You need to make a motion, and we'll have to have somebody second it, and we're going to,
All right.
to make it official.
I make the motion that we use the names that I just followed for fill one seat by Lowell, Tom, or Mary, one seat by James, Bob, or myself, one seat by the mayor, or to fill the 3 open seats on the income tax board of review.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Okay. Sorry.
That's okay. That's all I want.
Yeah, keeps me in a straight and narrow.
You don't think 2 CPAs would have more knowledge of tax issues?
I don't know what Richard Simpson did.
Okay, I asked if 2 CPAs, I didn't ask
I
about
was
Richard.
just wondering, because the name changed, and I don't think the knowledge level did. I don't
I'm
think
asking
that.
about the 2 CPAs.
No, I don't think that a CPA has any more knowledge of this than a CFO.
I'd rather go to a CPA to have my taxes done than,
Look, I mean, Keith made the decision. He's not a CPA, right? You oversee the whole city's taxes. You're not a CPA. You don't have a problem with that.
You a CPA, Mike?
No, I am not.
And
Income tax clerk a CPA?
No, I don't believe she is.
Okay, motion is second. Any other comments?
This immediately solves this problem. If it's happened once ever, we move on, we can just ban this group and form another one. But under the circumstances, I think it makes sense. And this has nothing to do, so you know, that the writ of mandamus that I will file will not ask for a name. It won't. I don't care about people's taxes in the slightest. I care about a precedent being set in this place, that 2 people that work for this council tell us what to do.
Anyone else? I just feel uncomfortable personally having 2 teams here, and you have to pick one from each team. And as far as myself, I'm no tax expert. I don't feel that I would be qualified enough to make a decision as far as tax issue. I don't even fill out my own taxes. My wife does it. So, other than paying them.
How about we amend this then to appoint one of your CPAs on there to that seat?
While we go to the next motion and change the names up. You can always amend that motion. Correct?
That takes trust. Okay, I will do so.
Okay, so you want to withdraw that motion
I will
then?
withdraw it.
Okay. Next item.
So we are going to withdraw B for the time being.
Yes. And can amend C.
And we're going to amend C.
You can. It's not me. Item C, we need a motion to appoint 3 individuals to an income tax board of review. 3 names listed are John Howler, Rick Firestone, and Richard Simpson.
So moved.
Second. Okay. Comments?
Is this where we would make the motion to amend it?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'd like to make a motion to amend the 3 names and leave, and I don't know John or Rick, they're both CPAs, I'm assuming?
I don't know if they're CPAs,
Does anybody know if these are CPAs?
they're tax preparers.
I think Rick is, I'm not sure about.
All CPAs are not tax preparers.
No. They're both taxmen.
Is this, could we entertain some discussion about the necessity for being a quote tax guy? I mean, this, and here again, not knowing what the issue is, but I can't imagine that we're gonna form this board, we're gonna go in there and arm wrestle over the tax code, and I can't either think that that's a monumental task, but why is it that we need to have a guy who runs a bookkeeping service?
You need a tax preparer?
I said a bookkeeping
Well,
service.
both of these people are tax preparers.
Yes, I understand, and so does H&R Block hire.
We just picked these names out. If you got other names,
Yeah,
somebody different.
absolutely.
Can I add something? It has nothing to do with the names. It has to do with the function of this board. Because it's not just to hear this case. 880.13, which was in your packet, was given by Dan. First paragraph, it says that once the board is already created as part of the charter, but we have to appoint the members. It says the majority of members of the board shall constitute a quorum. The board shall adopt its own procedural rules and shall keep a record of its transactions. Any hearing by the board may be conducted privately to the provisions 88009 with reference to confidentiality disclosed. All rules and regulations and amendments or changes thereto which are adopted by the administrator, Keith, under the authority conferred by this chapter must be approved by the board of review before the same becomes effective. So what this means is that this board is also created to make changes could make changes to our tax code, correct? Yeah, I believe so. So you don't just blindly want to throw names around and say, okay, this board has the power as the check and balance to the person who does, by our charter, have the right to see every tax return in the city. It states that Keith can look through and look at everyone's taxes if he chooses to. This board is that check and balance, correct?
But it doesn't say the board has to report to council.
No, it doesn't.
No, it doesn't. That's what-
And the board shall hear and pass on appeals from any ruling or decision of the administrator, and at the request of the taxpayer is empowered to substitute alternate methods. So this board has the power to make its own decisions outside of Keith, or Dan, or us.
Or our tax.
Or a tax code.
Which is why it can amend, it can change.
What I just said.
Yeah. That was why I put our three names up in the first place. We can bring anyone in to work with us on tax-related law. We hire attorneys regularly outside of Dan to work with us on separate issues. We could hire tax law to work with us on this. This has nothing to do with it. A separate piece of what I printed out was the powers that Dan has here. The power of the city attorney. It basically states that we have the ability to hire special counsel that work under you, correct?
But that's not involved in this situation.
But it could be. Our charter states.
Anything could be. The purpose of this exercise is for a simple purpose, to resolve the issue between this particular taxpayer and the city.
But going forward.
Now, I don't dispute that, but if you're concerned about that, you can just simply appoint them for this limited purpose, and their job is over. If that's your concern, it's very easily handled.
Once these people are appointed to this board, how long do they serve?
Well, there's no time.
No time.
That's why I'm telling
So
you.
we can put a time limitation on it.
You appoint them for either a time frame
Okay.
or a particular task. If you're concerned about them doing things you don't want them to do.
But they do not answer to us.
They don't give an answer as far as whether, once the board hears it, whether they approve or disapprove, because if it goes to court,
That's the point.
Then we know.
The point I was making before is that the board functions in this private capacity, assuming the taxpayer wants it that way. If the taxpayer doesn't care, not a problem. But if they function in this
private capacity, the issue's resolved there. There's no reporting to anybody. The issue's resolved and.
Yeah, but the issue is resolved according to the three people we appoint. We have no say.
Yeah, that's right.
They don't come to us and say, do you approve or disapprove of this?
No, you're not an appellate body here. If they don't like the decision of the board, they can appeal to the court.
Yeah, I'm okay with the powers of the board, but I do think that should be a part of it. And from a financial standpoint, Bob has more experience than any of us. He was a CFO. Why would we appoint Dick Simpson over a CFO who also happens to be able to report back to this council with what's going on?
Well, he's not supposed to, according to the charter. That would be sworn to confidentiality.
No, that would be according to your opinion of the charter.
So if that happened, then you can't go back to A and not spend that money to get legal counsel?
Yeah, we can do whatever we want. We can hire legal counsel for anything that we're saying about.
But if you appointed legal counsel on this one person, you don't need to hire anybody. We would make that go away.
Two separate issues. Because that doesn't break the precedence of telling us that we're going to tell us.
But one person would know. You wouldn't feel better about that?
No.
So we need to decide on
So
the
we need to
rename.
decide.
Yes.
Well, I'll make a motion that we nominate Bob Bishop to be on this committee.
You're an amending motion.
I'll
to add
amend the
his name.
motion to add Bob
And remove.
Richard Simpson.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion to amend.
And it really has nothing to do with Mr. Simpson. I just feel better with Bob.
Dan, is that the repercussion that you voiced a little earlier?
I think so.
Is that real, or is that something that is written, or do you think that's something?
I think it's a mistake, but I already told you that.
Pardon me?
I think it's a mistake, but the council does what it wants.
We have a motion to amend, remove Richard Simpson and add Bob Bishop.
We're going to do the amendment.
We have to vote on the amendment first.
We ought to talk about the term.
I think that we'll have to make another, amendment to add that term, yes. But this is just going to swear in names.
Okay.
Ian?
This is on the amendment to replace Mr. Simpson and Mr. Bishop.
Yes.
Whitman?
Yes.
Ferguson?
No.
Bishop?
Of course.
King?
Yes, ma'am.
Schlenker?
Yeah.
Callender?
Yes.
Two.
Okay. So the three names are John Haller, Rick Firestone, and Mr. Bishop. Okay, now, do we want to put a time limit on it? I really feel we should.
Why don't we amend it again to make it exclusive to this case, this hearing, to the result of this hearing, and then disband it?
Can we name that, or, okay, very good.
So that's your motion
Yes.
to make it for this case and then start with this ban.
Yep.
All right, I'll second that.
Any comments on the time limitation?
Well, I have one question. Is this a committee or board that we should always have in place or put in place as needed?
As needed. The board could have been established in 1973.
But it never was.
It never was, but it could have been, and those people could have been on that board and never done anything for 10 or 15 years until something came up.
Okay.
The same could be true in this situation. I'm just telling you, in 40 years, this is the first
time you've had it
first time
happen.
we've had any.
Okay.
There was nothing there that says it should be burned.
Okay, that's
So
fine.
I don't have any problem with limiting it and reappointing it. That seems to be reasonable.
It's something we'll have to consider then in the future, if we want to put it there or we come up with different ones. Okay, let's have a vote on the amendment for this case only, time limitation.
Ferguson,
Yes.
Bishop,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Schlenker.
Yes.
Callender,
Yes.
Blakeman.
Yes.
Okay.
Now we need to vote
On
on
the-
the motion
As amended.
amended.
Twice. Okay. Any other comments on the main motion? Deanne?
King,
Yes.
Schlenker,
We're voting on the three.
we're voting on the appointment of Howard, Firestone, and Bishop.
Due to the shortness of the term, we'll have to go with that. Yes.
For this case only.
This case on. Callender,
Yes.
Blakeman,
Yes.
Ferguson,
Yes.
Bishop,
Yes.
Resolution number 12-R-439, first reading. A resolution requesting county distribution of casino revenues.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments?
Have you guys read anywhere where the other folks have had luck doing this?
Where,
Like the towns and the cities that have petitioned to receive revenue,
we're not working.
you know,
I think quite a few communities have petitioned.
petition.
I think this is more a pressure thing than anything.
Well, it is a pressure thing because it's an election year,
Yeah.
and I think it's wrong, well, I can't say it's wrong in the county, the state made the decision, but I think the county needs to share its resources in this case.
It does make sense, if they're coming on one end, knowing it's coming on the casino end, it should trickle all the way down. And you
Should.
really, I mean, that was one of the things with the school levy a couple months ago, or whatever it was. They've already said that casino money is gonna start going to the schools, so maybe that could offset some of it and not be it, so. I agree.
Possibly. Deanne?
Callender,
Yes.
Blakeman,
Yes.
Ferguson,
Yes.
Bishop,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Schlenker,
Yes.
Ordinance number 12-0-2703, first reading. An ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Warren Fire Equipment Incorporated, 6880 Todd Avenue, Warren, Ohio, for the purchase of a ladder truck for the volunteer fire department of the city of Columbiana.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments?
Yeah. I would love to say thank you for keeping your word, because I was one of the ones that fought you on wanting to create a separate account. And I'm glad to see that the money is sitting there. Appreciate that.
Thanks for being here.
Deanne?
Bishop,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Schlenker,
Yes.
Callender,
Yes.
Blakeman,
Yes.
Ferguson,
Yes.
Can we get side note with public real quick on that?
Sure.
One thing I noticed that was a good thing, they ended up coming in with 6 payments to make them every 6 months to cut that interest down, and it will be paid off before the levy is over.
Right, and also, just to make a note of that, if there's extra money available, we can pay extra to a loan payment. If we maybe have some extra
Toward the
sitting around,
principal.
we could pay more. We don't have to, keep it at the 57,000. I also did get another quote from a local bank, and they were not as good as the community leasing. And I also had another inquiry from a company called Leasing to Fire Departments. It was out of Tampa, Florida, because when it hit the newspaper the next day, I got a couple of phone calls, hey, you're buying a fire truck, we want to lease it or finance it. And they never got back to me. I gave them the particulars, and I never heard from them. So this is the best, the one that you voted on here was the best offer that we did.
Seems a pretty good rate.
Yeah. And actually the discount I estimated at 6,900 and they came in at 7,500. So we got a little better deal there too.
And we should receive it from the last time you heard, approximately a year from now?
They say 9 months from the time you sign a contract.
Okay.
So the hope would be that maybe we have it for the street fair parade.
Oh, wow, that'd be great.
That'd be nice if it showed up before that.
Jeff keeps on me for that. All right, thank you. Ordinance number 12-0-2704, first reading. An ordinance amending sections 1260.05 and 1260.22 of Planning and Zoning Code of the Codified Ordinances of Columbiana, Ohio.
Second.
And this was from our public hearing earlier concerning the injection well. Soda by us. Any comments?
Yes, I'd like to thank the planning commission for bringing this to our attention and thank Attorney Blaisdell for writing
Deanne?
Schlenker?
Yes.
Callender?
Yes.
Clayton?
Yes.
Ferguson?
Yes.
Bishop?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
And the last item under new business, we need a motion to set trick or treat night in the city of Columbiana for October 31st, 2012, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments?
What are you doing?
I usually hand out.
He's gonna use the gavel.
Deanne?
Lakeman?
Yes.
Ferguson?
Yes.
Bishop?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Schlenker?
Yes.
Callender?
Yes.
Council comments? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.